Back in 2020, I was digging around the Canadian copyright database for information surrounding two popular Niagara Falls attractions, Castle Dracula and the House of Frankenstein. This was at the earliest beginnings of the Canadian Amusement History website and YouTube series, where I was still gathering research on several Canadian attractions whose incredible histories had gone undocumented. That's what led me to the page on the database for Wax Attract, the local studio that built and originally owned both of these attractions. But on that page were several other anecdotes that I found very interesting. We'll touch on some of those another day. But one of the entries on that page stuck out to me more than any other, simply because I had never even heard of it before. That entry was Jungleland Golf, filed on May 5th, 1979, for use under miniature golf in Niagara Falls, Ontario. What was this attraction? And more importantly, what happened to it? Join me as we uncover the incredible story of a falls attraction that time forgot and bring it into the limelight once again. When I first discovered the Jungleland trademark, the reason it intrigued me so much is because even by this point, I thought I had a near complete knowledge of former Niagara Falls attractions. While amusement attractions across the globe are a hobby of mine, especially ones in my native country of Canada, hence the name of this channel, Southern Ontario has always had a soft spot for me, as these are the attractions I grew up with. Nowhere had a bigger impact on me than the falls, and even long before the beginning of my website or this channel, the history of the attractions there always interested me. Between referencing old photographs, hunting down old brochures, and scanning old tourist home movies people have uploaded to the internet, I thought I had uncovered just about every defunct attraction that once operated in the falls. So for this to be the first time I had even seen the Jungleland name, I had to know more. First of all, what can we determine from this listing? We know it had to have opened at some point either in the late 70s or early 80s, either just before or after the copyright was filed. The copyright remains active until 1996, meaning that the attraction at least operated until then, but could have potentially been renamed or ran without a copyright on the name for some time after. Additionally, if it's something I don't personally remember from my childhood, then it most likely closed sometime around or before the late 1990s. This gives us an operating window of sometime around 15 to 20 years. We also know that in 1980 the copyright was transferred to someone by the name of Herbert W. Cowan. Now whether the course was already operational by this point and then sold off by Wax Attract, or if it was developed by Wax Attract for this Mr. Cowan and just didn't open until 1980 isn't immediately clear, but remember this name for the future, as it'll be important later on. With a good base of information to go off from this one database entry, I started digging into Jungleland further. Google searches at the time turned up absolutely nothing aside from the copyright database entry. I also emailed the archivist at the Niagara Falls Public Library, who unfortunately wasn't able to find anything at all in their archives on Jungleland in their newspaper and image records. This is when I seriously started considering the possibility that this place never even existed at all. The copyright was found alongside other Wax Attract projects that are known to have been cancelled or never completed. You may recall I briefly touched on the unfinished concept Monsterland Golf in my video on Nightmare's Fear Factory and the coincidentally similar but unrelated horror-themed blacklight mini-golf that Nightmares once operated. So could it be that the lost attraction I was looking for never existed at all? Still, the fact that this copyright was transferred to another owner and then not deactivated for 15 years still gave me the feeling that this was something. This was someone's childhood memory, someone's summer job, the place someone went on their first date, and I owed it to the people who would remember it to track down proof of its existence. And that's when it dawned on me. Maybe the proof of this place's existence wasn't stored in a library, newspaper archive, or contained in some old commercial. Maybe it lived on through the people who remembered it. So I asked around in local Niagara Falls chat boards on various social media platforms to see if anyone else remembered this place. And oh boy, did you guys deliver on that. You'll probably notice these comments seem a bit contradictory. Some people remember this attraction on Victoria Avenue at the bend where it becomes Ferry Street. This is the border of what the municipality considers the Clifton Hill District, the most popular area for amusement attractions in the falls, and would have made sense to be this attraction's location. Additionally, this spot would become home to Tivoli Miniature World in 1993, after that attraction relocated from its original home at the nearby Prudhomme's Landing amusement park. This means the timeline for this parcel of land lines up as well if Jungleland closed in 1993, just before the copyright was abandoned. But then what about the people who remember this attraction at the intersection of Murray and Stanley? This is over in the Fallsview district, which has always been popular for amusement attractions, but nowhere near to the level of the Clifton Hill area. People definitely remember a miniature golf course here with jungle animals and dinosaurs. But was this a second Jungleland? Or was this another attraction entirely that people were also recalling? Around the same time I was getting these comments and replies from people, I found something interesting in records of the minutes of an old city council meeting of all places. In a 2002 meeting discussing the construction of a parking garage nearby the then upcoming Fallsview Casino, they discussed that the garage would be useful when regular casino parking and the lots around it were full, including the Jungleland lot. Looking at aerial shots of the area from around that time, we can clearly see a gravel parking lot at the intersection of Murray and Stanley. This implies that there was in fact two Junglelands, and people do in fact remember this, with one person who replied to my inquiry even going as far as to recall that the one on Victoria Avenue closed in the early 90s, and that the one in the Fallsview district lasted a little bit longer. So by this point I had a pretty good idea of when and where these courses were, but no photos or documentation of either. Since the early days of my research, scouring through old tourist photos and home videos for shots and angles of long-gone attractions has been one of my go-to research tools. So this being years ago, I did just that, scanning through what photos from that era were available on the internet and old tourist videos to try and find anything. Unfortunately, with both of these attractions being located on the outskirts of their respective districts, instead of in a well-documented central area like along Clifton Hill, this was easier said than done. The spots they were located in were not spots that would be normally captured in a panoramic shot of the area. I even rewatched archival videos I had already found and collected to see if I had somehow missed a glimpse of these attractions before I knew they existed. But weeks turned into months, which turned into years, and I still hadn't found anything more on Jungleland Golf. In early 2023, a 1988 video was uploaded to YouTube of a German family's trip to Canada. When visiting the falls, they visit the Skylon Tower's observation deck, and as they pan around an aerial shot of the city, a blurry collection of brightly colored shapes can be seen at the intersection of Murray and Stanley, exactly where the gravel lot was later located. This was clearly the second Jungleland location, and we can even see some sort of temple-like structure. This was neat to see as it further confirms the memories of these attractions. But with how far away the video was shot from and the camera quality of the time, it doesn't really give us much in terms of actually seeing this place. Finally, a 5-part series of videos in the falls in 1987 was uploaded to YouTube in late 2023, and in part 3 was this. During a panoramic shot of Victoria Avenue taken from the bend where it becomes Ferry Street, the original Jungleland Golf can finally be seen up close. This shot alone tells us a lot about the course. We can clearly see the admission building, several of the greens, and even some of the jungle animal theming. We even get our first ever glimpse of a logo on the sign. Most striking perhaps is the towering giraffe, which as you'll learn shortly, was somewhat of an icon of the course. What's interesting about these figures is that you'll notice identical ones at several other miniature golf courses across North America. Here's some at a former putt-putt location in Modesto, California. Here's some at Jungle Lagoon in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And here's some at the Jungle Quest Mini Putt, located in the Nottawasaga Inn, right here in Ontario. With some research magic, we can find out that a number of the courses that once contained these figures were part of the Jungle Golf chain, a Myrtle Beach-based chain of miniature golf courses owned by Creative Recreations, who appears to have used this chain to market these figures, which they in turn sold to miniature golf courses across North America. It seems like later on these designs were manufactured by an American company named Amusement Products, mostly known for their go-karts and still in operation today, who probably purchased the molds after Creative Recreations went defunct. While they no longer sell this product line, using the power of the Wayback Machine we can find the old catalog listing on archives of their website and see that this is their Jungle Kingdom line of figures. So we finally have an idea of how this course looked and where the jungle animals came from. But then, where does Wax Attract fit into this story? They were a design studio after all, responsible for some of the most innovative, detailed, and creative attractions and props from that time period. Waxatract was owned by local entrepreneur Robert Dunham, who had 8 children, all of which would go on to be involved in the company in some capacity. But if they didn't design these statues, and Herbert Cowan owned the course, then what was their involvement? This was a question I thought I probably wouldn't ever get an answer to, until I reposted this clip of Jungleland online. One comment on that post ended up being one of the biggest leads I ever had, not just for uncovering the history of Jungleland, but for uncovering information on the development of Canada's amusement industry as a whole. One of the people who, luckily for me, saw that post was Robert Dunham's daughter, Debbie. She was kind enough to hop on a phone call with me, which was probably the most informative hour of my life since I started researching attractions. She also put me in touch with her older brother, Fred, who wasn't just employed at most of these attractions, but also had a hand in the creation of almost all of them. While most of that is a story for another time, it finally solved the puzzle of Jungleland. It turns out that Waxatract did in fact build, own, and operate the original Jungleland location on Victoria Avenue. The course, including its massive volcano, was hand-built by the Dunham family, with the jungle animals being shipped in from the States. The 1979 copyright filing likely does line up exactly with the year the course opened. We can use a fun little piece of trivia to place exactly what year it opened.
Oh boy, he built Jungleland. Okay, I gotta remember. I'm trying to remember what grade I was in. So I was only like 13-ish. And you know what? Whatever year, this is crazy way to remember it. Christopher Reeves was here filming Superman because I remember selling him around to golf. We were fully running at that point.
The 1980 blockbuster Superman 2, with one of its most iconic scenes shot in Niagara Falls, had its on-location filming in the city take place in September of 1979. The course being operational beginning in 1979 is also corroborated by the Dunhams owning the course for more than one season. As we can see, the copyright was transferred to Herbert Cowan toward the end of the 1980 season, not the beginning.
And then he ended up selling it, I think we had it for a good 2 years, and then he sold it to Herb Cowan.
When Waxatract owned the course, they had a clever marketing strategy. In a move that shows off Dunham's marketing genius, he advertised a golf all day price, meaning that customers could return to the course as many times as they wanted that day for the same price of one round of golf. This was both to compete with the Golforama course on Clifton Hill, and because Dunham knew that with the average price of the other attractions in the falls, tourists were looking for a low-cost, long-experience attraction to fill time on a budget. Despite this, he also knew that the majority of guests would not actually bother to spend the time to play a whole second round after completing the first, freeing up capacity on the course.
Jungleland was an amazing thing. You know why? In Jungleland, there's a little strip of land. It's like I think it's a race car thing now in Niagara Falls. But the Skyline Tower owned it. It was just a little triangle strip of land right on the corner of Victoria Avenue and Ferry Street. My dad approached the owners and he said, "Yeah, I want to lease this for 10 years." And he said, "Sure. What are you going to put there?" And my dad says, "Mini putt." They just all ducked their heads and went off. There's been like 3 of them there. They all went bankrupt. He says, "No, I'm not building that kind of mini putt." And my dad he knew people. He builds this mini putt, and we ordered the animals for it. It was dinosaurs, and we ordered it with dinosaurs. There was a giraffe, there was a T-Rex, there was an elephant, there was all these things. And my brothers, 2 of my brothers, Chris and Bobby, built a volcano in one corner that was a waterfall, and it was 18 holes. There was a front 9 and a back 9, and it was $3.50 all day mini putt. We had like, I think it was 150 putters, and after 150, if it was full, you have to wait for somebody to come off the course, and it was a gimmick. It was a gimmick by my dad. I mean, It looked great because you come around the corner and there's this 18-foot giraffe, and you're like, "Holy shit, look at that!" Right? And it was a gimmick because in the hot sun in the summer, you pay $350. How many times do you think you're going to go around 18 holes?
Once or twice tops.
It was once. Most people did 9. That hut, and all we sold was water, pop, and chips. Couldn't get a club to save your life, day and night. People lined up. It made absolute great money, and the Skyline people were freaked out how great it was.
When the course was sold to Herbert Cowan, he discontinued the play-all-day system, and when he did, sales allegedly plummeted. It wasn't long before he re-implemented it, and the course would be successful for years to come.
You know, the funny thing is when my dad sold it, the guy who bought it, he kept it the same, but he changed the price to, it was something like $8 for 18 holes. And he came back to my dad and said, you know what? You screwed me over here. This thing's not busy at all. My dad says, you don't understand people. The reason people came to it because a family of 4 goes up Clifton Hill. By the time they see 3 exhibits, they're out $200.
Yep.
And then they look over and go, $350 all day mini putt. He says, and what it was, he says, you're better to charge $350 and have a lineup all day than you are to charge $8 a person. They changed it right after that. He was packed. My dad was brilliant that way, absolutely brilliant.
So now it was clear who built Jungleland, how it looked, and who owned it. But what about the other course, over in the Fallsview district? With the new information uncovered thanks to this conversation, I was able to dig deep into newspaper archives, and finally found some answers. After Cowan bought Waxatrack's original Jungleland, he constructed the Stanley Avenue location without their involvement later on.
That was him.
So he built that years later, like that. You guys weren't involved in that one at all?
No, not at all. No.
Okay.
He saw a great idea. He just didn't know what to do with it.
It's also not known if the second location just featured jungle animals or if the theming was more elaborate. Many people also remember the course being more difficult than the original, and some even remember dinosaurs and mythical creatures at this location. The first mention of the Stanley Avenue location appears in 1987, when the course's tiger statue was allegedly stolen. By the way, theft, vandalism, and all sorts of misfortunes befalling these animal statues seemed to be a recurring issue at both locations.
Phone calls from the police. I remember my dad picking a police officer off the property. They stole a giraffe.
Oh, man.
A bunch of idiots stole an 18-foot high giraffe and put it right in the middle of the road in front of Marineland.
How the hell did they do that?
Right? And the cop shows up. The cop shows up, and my dad's standing there, and the cop's like, Mr. Dunham? Yeah. And what is your date of birth? What the hell do you need that for? And sir, how old are you? He goes, get off the property. Send me back somebody that wants to find the damn giraffe.
Somewhat similarly to the fate of the giraffe, the Victoria Avenue location's camel was allegedly stolen in 1980, driven halfway across town, and placed in the middle of the road. A baby elephant also went missing but was later returned to the same course. Some small frogs went missing and were never seen again, and in 1982, a vehicle driving on Victoria Avenue swerved off the road, drove through the fence surrounding Jungleland, and totally destroyed the giraffe statue. Thankfully, with these being mass-produced statues from a major company in the US, it looks like these were pretty replaceable, but definitely wouldn't have been cheap. Aside from these occasional instances, the courses flourished, not just with tourists, but also with locals, becoming staples of the community.
Even when the business was slowing down, like the tourist season,
Right.
the locals came out.
It sounds like it was hugely popular with the locals.
Oh my God, yeah. Funny thing, there used to be a thing called the Clifton Hill Gang. A bunch of teenagers in that, right? They were
Right.
called the Clifton Hill Gang. They came every Friday night, and they would beg us, can we play it till midnight? Yeah, you can play. Because they were out there gambling. They're betting each other on every hole. But there was like 30 of them. So
Right.
my dad was like, 30 of you want to stay until midnight? Yeah, absolutely. And they came every Friday night. It was like part of their tradition.
That's
It was
awesome.
hilarious. But the groups we got, that came out
Right.
took a mini putt.
They hosted charity tournaments, groups from Big Brother programs, and became a popular local hangout. Despite there still being zero photos to resurface of the location in the Fallsview district, I mean, even the news photo of the missing tiger is of a tiger similar to the one stolen from Jungleland. Newspaper ads for it continued to run as late as 2000. This also explains why it was mentioned in that city council meeting from just a couple years later as the Jungleland lot. It's kind of crazy that it lasted that long, was that popular with the community and tourists alike, but was so poorly documented. As for the original Victoria Avenue location, it would close back in 1993, but its story lived on far beyond that. You see, that year, the previously mentioned Tivoli Miniature World, a walk-through garden attraction featuring miniature models of famous buildings, would move from the nearby Prudhomme's Landing amusement park to a portion of the former location of the original Jungleland. with the other half of the plot becoming a strip plaza, which opened in 1996 and still stands today. Just 2 years later, in 1995, it would be converted into Tivoli Miniature Golf, transforming from a walk-through garden amongst the building models to a miniature golf course around them. With the plot reverted back to a miniature golf course, the giant Tivoli Miniature World sign was changed to read Miniature Golf. Meanwhile, the same year that Tivoli Miniature World moved to the former Jungleland plot, jungle animal statues from Creative Recreations, the identical type of statues that were once found at Jungleland, appeared at the Putt Putt Mini Golf over on Lundy's Lane. The Putt Putt course had already been operating here since the 1980s with no real theme, and was Canada's first officially licensed Putt Putt location, the American chain credited with repopularizing the game in the 1950s. Their local commercial allegedly became an annoying but beloved brainworm for Niagara Falls locals.
Putt putt for the fun of it, putt putt for the fun of it, putt putt for the fun of it, putt putt for the fun of it.
These same jungle animal figures were available as franchisee options for Putt Putt course owners beginning in the late 1980s. However, I think the fact that this course didn't open with them, and they showed up the exact season after Jungleland closed, is way too big a coincidence not to be related. That would mean that, even though I missed out on experiencing Jungleland as a kid, I at least got to experience its old statues at this course. The same Creative Recreations jungle animal statues can also be found at the mini golf course located at Niagara Go-Karts just off the QEW, where they've been for decades, but definitely look somewhat shoehorned into their course. We don't know what year these figures were installed at Niagara Go-Karts or if they've been there since the course opened in the late 70s. However, the timeline of Jungleland closing at the end of the season, the year before Putt Putt got their statues, makes me truly believe that Putt Putt got the Jungleland figures. That doesn't mean that's the case for the statues from the second location, however, and I would not be surprised at all if the Stanley Avenue location statues ended up here. This image is a web archive of their website in 2000, right after the second Jungleland closed, and to me this photo just screams, look at these new statues we just got. Either way, go check this place out if you're ever in the area. It's a great little course, the go-karts are much cheaper and faster than the ones on Clifton Hill, and you might even get a chance to see some old friends from Jungleland while you're there. But this story doesn't end there, and comes even more full circle. Tivoli Miniature Golf would itself close in 1996, and the plot would be completely cleared, with the Courtyard Marriott Hotel being built in its place. As for the giant miniature golf sign, it would be sold to none other than Putt Putt on Lundy's Lane, meaning the course that most likely received Jungleland's fiberglass animals also received the sign from the attraction which replaced it. Putt Putt would rebrand as Jungle Putt in the late 2000s, ending the official Putt Putt franchising. Unfortunately, the story from here on out is pretty depressing. The course was on life support by the 2010s. The Dairy Queen located in the course's arcade building closed around that time, and was replaced with a string of several other takeout and ice cream places over the years, each with varying degrees of success. The arcade was also severely decreased in size, with only a small room containing a handful of machines remaining. There's this video from 2011 that pans around the course in this weird limbo, half-abandoned, half-operational kind of state, while the song Someone Like You by Adele blares out of the speakers at the course, and I obviously can't play it here with the music because of copyright issues, but I highly suggest you go look up this video. I'll link it in the description, because it is extremely depressing, just hearing this song echoing through this empty course, as it sits rotting there with all of these jungle animal statues, half forgotten. Sometime around 2014 or 2015, the course saw its last player, and became abandoned shortly after. In 2016, a fire later deemed arson broke out in the arcade, resulting in damages that required the entire ice cream and arcade building to be demolished. It was at this time that the property owner decided to demolish the entire course. The animal statues, the very same ones that were likely once installed at Jungleland by the Dunhams, entertained guests on Victoria Avenue for years, and once met Christopher Reeve, were auctioned off to various buyers, none of which have since resurfaced. With that, the last decaying relics of Jungleland's existence became lost to time. No photos of the Stanley Avenue location have since surfaced, aside from the blurry aerial shot from the Skylon Tower. The only documentation of the Victoria Avenue location is vague at best, with this video really being the best glimpse of it we have. No good shots of the volcano have yet surfaced. which is really too bad because out of everything it's probably what I'd want to see most. But with everything I had been able to dig up on this attraction, from finding it as a footnote in the copyright database to being able to present this video to you, I still felt like I needed some physical relic, something I could hold in my hand that would carry on the legacy of something lost to time. That's when an incredibly rare opportunity presented itself on eBay, and just a couple of dollars later. So maybe Jungleland isn't truly gone or lost at all. It lives on in the memories of the people who played the course on a family vacation, locals who used to ride the bikes to the courses with their friends, people who were employed by Mr. Dunham or Mr. Cowan, and the credit of being the first themed miniature golf course in the Falls, something that you see at literally every single course today. So if you're ever driving through the Niagara region and you spot an oddly out-of-place elephant, zebra, or giraffe peeking out over someone's backyard fence or installed next to a random business, consider that just maybe it's a relic of a lost world. Do you have any memories of either Jungleland location or the Lundy's Lane Putt-Putt? If so, please leave a comment down below, as the memories of people who experienced attractions have always been the greatest research tool in the creation of my website and YouTube channel. My favorite part of doing this research has always been discovering these incredible stories along the way, finding the people behind these attractions that have entertained millions. That's why I owe a huge thank you to the Dunham family for reaching out to me. Without them, this video, videos to come, and countless more information on my website wouldn't be possible. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this mini documentary, please like and subscribe, as it greatly helps out against YouTube's algorithm and allows us historical information to reach a wider audience. If you want to learn more about Jungleland, Putt-Putt, and other attractions in the Falls, check out my website, Canadian Amusement History. There you can view history pages on attractions, view historical photos and videos, and more. Thank you for watching.